Hello everyone. So now we are going to do this REST API security. This one, describe REST API security. Okay. So what is API we are going to discuss, and after that we are going to discuss more things. So first of all, the topic which we are discussing, REST API security. So what is REST API? Before going to REST API, we should know what is API. Before going to the REST API, we should know what is API. API stands for Application Programming Interface. This is important. We need to remember in the network automation we are using this one, API. If you are accessing website, if you are accessing the application, in the background it is running the API only. If you are opening the Amazon.com, Google.com, if you are going to the different product, the API HTTPS is running backside. They are fetching the data from the Amazon server and it is showing you on your browser. They are having the API. In simple words, if we want to define what is API, API is nothing but computer to computer communication. We can say machine to machine communication is known as API. API is a application programming interface. API is a way for computer program to communicate directly with another computer program. API is a machine to machine communication. Directly they can communicate, no need to involve us. If we click, one machine will fetch the data from another machine with the help of API. Okay, so what we can say, application programming interface. API is a way of computer program to communicate directly with another computer program, or in another words we can say machine to machine communication is known as API. As we as network engineer, usually we are using the CLI. As a network engineer, we are using the CLI, command line interface, or GUI to configure or monitor the device. Generally what we are doing, if you see here just now the lab which we use here we are using the GUI. When we are accessing the what we can say controller, we are using GUI. And also in the firewall, if you use the Palo Alto firewall or if you use the FortiGate checkpoint, we are using the GUI only most of the time, because GUI is much easier compared to CLI. So if we are using, if I am clicking here, if you see this URL, it is changing. If you see URL, this one, universal resource locator, this is changing. If you see, observe here, when I am accessing, if I click this one is changed. Remaining is uniform interface. From here to here is uniform. When I click here, this remains same, only changes is here, something here change. Remaining is same. So they are using the API. They are using API because they are fetching the data from the database by machine. One machine is fetching the data from another machine. Okay. So what I am saying here, we are the network engineer. We are using most of the time CLI or GUI to monitor our device, to fetch the configuration, to send the configuration. So we in the automation we are using the API. API is used to fetch the configuration, retrieve the configuration, send the configuration. In simple words, we can say API is a software interface which allow other application to communicate with our application, or one application to another application. If I give simple example, maybe API you can say it is a waiter. If we go in in the restaurant, you will call the waiter, you will give the order, the waiter will take your order, they will go to the kitchen and they will tell to the kitchen guy will prepare the food, he will bring the food and he will give you. So waiter is acting as a API. Whatever you are requesting, he is bringing from the kitchen. So same like that, whatever we are fetching, API is going to fetch that data and give us the data. Okay, that is a simple example. So now let's see REST. REST. REST stand for representational state transfer. Okay. So representational means we transfer the representation of the resources between the server and client. We use data format for this representation. Typically we use JSON or XML. This is a language for the browser also. JSON and XML we are using to send this information. State transfer means that each operation with the REST API it self-contained, and we can perform the different operation with the REST API. What operation we can perform? CURD, CURD. So what is CURD means? We can say like create, delete, paste. We can do so many things. If you see here, I wrote get. We can use get to read the information, to retrieve the information. We will use post to paste the application in information, means we can submit the data. Put means update the data. Delete means delete the data. So what we are doing, we are using this operation, we are performing this operation. We can transfer, we can retrieve. So how we are doing? We are doing by using the HTTP. HTTP is a popular, so you can use the REST API is almost any programming language. So resource is a thing. We are saying resources. So thing, if you want to fetch anything, you want to update anything, we will use the REST API, and with that one we can, with the help of URL, we are doing that one. That is with the HTTP protocol. So if we want to access anything, we can access with the HTTP. That is nothing but REST API. So example, I want to visit that site. You will you will send this information to the server, and your server is going to reply the HTML page so that you can see. So this way we can communicate between the server and client. And if you see, I want to retrieve the R1 interface status. You tell this information to router. Router is going to give you R1 information with the help of JSON. Okay, JSON, with the help of JSON we will get this information. So REST have some constraint as given below. So we have some condition when we are using the REST API. First condition is client server architecture. Client server architecture means the client send a request and server is going to reply. Example, I am asking what is your name. I am asking to this router, what is your name? So router is replying, my name is R1. So this is a client, H1 is a client, R1 is a router. So router is replying to client. So this is a client server architecture. So this is the first condition if we are using the REST API. If you see here also, I am fetching, I am sending the information. So when I am clicking, they are bringing that detail. So this is using, when I am clicking, they are bringing the detail. So same thing when I am asking, they are replying to my information. So this is first condition. Then we should have the uniform interface, provide the simplicity. So if you see here URL, whenever I am fetching, this will remain same from here to here. Okay, after that they will change here. If you see here, it is changing. That is a uniform interface. Remaining thing is changing, but all starting URL remains same. Okay, so this is the second constraint, uniform interface, and it is a stateless. Stateless means your server will not remember. Example, if you are asking, hi, what is your name? This guy will reply, my name is R1. You will ask, what is the status of your interface? Fast Ethernet 0/0. He will say, my interface Fast Ethernet 0/0 is up. And you will ask, what is the description of that? This guy will not reply because he did not remember what you asked before. You are asking what is the description. You need to give complete question. You need to ask what is the description of your interface Fast Ethernet 0/0. Then only he will reply. If you ask what is the description of that one, he will not remember before you ask me about my interface status. So you are asking me the same thing. He will not remember. That is known as stateless. No client context is stored on the server between requests. So server is not going to store any information that you are asking. Example, you are saying what is your interface status of F0/0. After that you are asking what is your description of that interface. So he will not remember. You asked before him F0/0. So you need to define complete question. What is the description of your interface Fast Ethernet 0/0? Then only this guy can reply. Okay, so that one we are saying stateless. And then cacheability. Cacheability is nothing but our server will say, you are asking me the description of the interface. This is the description connected to WAN, connected to LAN, or any description whatever we wrote here, and cache this one. Don't ask me again and again, try to cache this one because no one is going to change that one. So server is having the responsibility. He can define themselves. He can say that one client cache this information. This information is not going to change. So you can store this information. And layered system. Layered system means Any intermediate device such as load balancer or firewall should be transparent to the client and server. We are saying we should have the client and server architecture. Maybe if you install one firewall here, if you install Palo Alto firewall here, maybe this firewall will block the communication whatever is happening here, what this guy is asking, what this guy is replying. So we need to have that transparent so they can communicate. Their communication should not stop. So this is another constraint. If you see this one, and we have the code on demand. Code on demand is nothing but our server can send some temporary code to make the changes in our client. So this is the some constraint we need to remember. If anyone asks you REST API constraint, so you can define client server architecture, uniform interface, stateless, cacheability, layered system, code on demand. And then RESTCon and NetCon are the API specially designed to work with the network device. So we have RESTCon and the NestCon. NetCon and RESTCon. If you see, we have in our syllabus some basic thing about this one. We are going to look that in our next class. Somewhere I saw NestCon, RESTCon. We have somewhere here in the automation, or maybe here. Configure and verify. NetCon and the RESTCon. So this is the API. With that one we can configure. Just we need to enable in the configure. We need to configure. It is very simple. Just we will go under the interface and we will write NetCon. So NetCon will be enabled in that router. And if you want to enable the RESTCon, we will write RESTCon. So it will enable in that router. But this will not work in all the router. We need to use the high configuration router, CSR router or ASR router. Neo router has having this feature. So later we are going to do this lab also. Okay, so now just remember, NetCon, RESTCon are the API specially designed for network automation. So how we can secure that one? We learn API, what is API, and now we learn the REST API. So we know what is a constraint, what is the meaning of REST API, everything we learn. How we can protect this one, how we can protect. So example, when we are using SSL, that is the SSL is nothing but TLS. TLS is nothing but SSL. So this is a secure. Whenever we are using SSL, that is using the HTTPS. So when we use HTTPS, our data will be secure. So if attacker, anyone is going to capture our data, it is encrypted. No one can see that one. Okay. But if we are using without SSL, that it is having the HTTP, so anyone can access your data. And if you are sending any username, password, if you are accessing the what we can say net banking, then your username, password can be captured and hacked by the user if you are not using the HTTPS. So for API, REST API, how we can secure means don't use the HTTP, use the HTTPS. So we can say follow the REST API rule, and like we can use the URL in the HTTP. Instead of HTTPS, we will use the HTTPS, and we need to follow that rule. What is the stateless? Means he will not remember whatever. If attacker hack your session and he is going to ask something, that guy will not remember. When we are using API, if you remember, he is not going to remember. It is a stateless. So we will not have any session open. So even attacker attack, if he is going to get any information, that server will not remember, he will not reply because he did not remember. So what we need to do, how we can secure means first we need to follow the REST API rule, that is a stateless. So if anyone attack and if anyone take our session, they cannot get the information, because when we follow the API rules, this is a stateless, so they will not remember. And second thing, authentication and authorization, and do not include the system detail in the URL. So we will use the HTTPS. If you use HTTPS, it will be encrypted. Don't use the HTTP. So this way we can secure the REST API. Okay, so this way we will secure the REST API.